Was it just me or like after graduating, like I didn't use or damn near remember anything that I learned in school? Like besides the basic, one, two, threes and ABCs, like none of that shit really even mattered. Like all them fucking hours I spent in school, all the homework, all the bullshit that we had to do, I didn't put none of that to use. Like none of that shit even matters to this day. And I feel like the most important stuff that I ever needed to know in life, I learned outside of school. So what the fuck was I there for? Like, that shit really just blows my mind, bro. Like, that's crazy.
You want to know what I find really strange? The technology evolves. Technology evolves and changes every single year. New discovery, new piece of technology, something, right? Something always new comes out when it comes to technology, a gadget, a new feature, a new piece of information, right? However, our school system has not changed in the last 80 years. It's very funny because even our fashion changes every few years, but the school system hasn't changed. Children go to school, sit down in a classroom full of other children. They have to be quiet and listen. Also, if you are a boy, you're not allowed to express how energetic you are. The school system is based on memorizing instead of critical thinking. Okay, that's why I was a B student and I sucked at memorizing. I sucked at memorizing things, right? However, I was good at thinking, decently good at thinking. What is up, guys? It's your boy Andy Matrix. I'm back with another video. Hang our Angry Guys YouTube channel. If you haven't heard of me, check out Andy Matrix Gaming, where I talk about gaming, anime, Japanese culture, and also some social issues. I'm trying to reach 2,000 subscribers. If you'd like to help out with that, click the link in the description. Subscribe, and thank you very much. Also, check out Angry Guy on Rumble because he's uploading content there that's not allowed on YouTube because YouTube is the censor station. Click the link in the description and follow him on Rumble for that spicy content. Also, we're going into an economic downturn. A lot of people are losing their jobs, and many of us are being pushed to own our own businesses because there's not enough jobs. There's not enough jobs, and we're gonna have to fend for ourselves. Find ways to make money, and so that's why Angry Guy created the Content Creator Academy to teach you how to start your own online business, create content, build an audience online, create a digital product, and start becoming independent of the job market of having to work a 9 to 5. Click the link in the description and get a free guide once you subscribe below in the description. Check out Angry Guy's Content Creator Academy. Now, let's start the show. So, I don't think school is difficult. I don't think school is difficult. I like learning. I like expanding my mind, and I love reading. However, my problem with the school system is that you don't really learn things that are useful for the real world. You know what I mean? Like isosceles triangles and freaking whatever other shit from algebra. We don't use it in our everyday lives. I'm sure it's useful in some careers, but I mean, come on. School does not prepare you for the real world, such as finances, dealing with taxes, building a business, nutrition, growing your own food, things that matter, things that actually freaking matter. Most people don't catch up until they go to college and universities, which we all have to pay for anyways. And even then, colleges and universities are usually 5 or more years behind all industries. And that's why many companies don't always hire college graduates. Okay, that's why some of the most successful people usually drop out of college and become millionaires. Right? And so today we have Dad Mode covering this topic. So let's go ahead and see what he has to say.
Yo, what's going on, everyone? So it's Halloween. I wasn't going to do a video, but I figured why not? I was watching Dapper Dev's latest video that came out just an hour ago. He dropped it. That was titled, "When Do We Lose Our Childhood Spark?" And I left a comment on that video because he had mentioned when he was a kid, when he was in school, he would be the kid that was looking out of the window. He didn't want to be there. He wanted to be out doing other things. And I was the same way. And so, I mean, what I had told him in the comment was that, I was that kid too. And from my perspective, the kids who can't sit in classrooms are often the ones that they're still alive inside. They still have that spark. And, you know, they haven't had the spark, you know, beaten out of them and trained out of them, because that's what school does, is it destroys your individuality, and it's this land of conformity by design, of course. But
So he is absolutely right about, what he said about the school system, that it's designed for conformity into, like, yeah, to kind of like drain out the creativity in you, because you got to remember, the school system was made to create more workers, more employees for the factories. It started in the 1800s. Or started in the 1800s. It's owned by the government, and so they write the textbooks for you, right? So the school is designed to create more workers for society, for the factories, for the companies, for the big corporations. It's been happening since the 1800s. You know, they design you. They create the type of people that they want to work for them. That's what they do. It's been like that for a couple of 100 years now. So yeah, and it's a system of conformity. It's a system of conformity. And here's the thing: you cannot get an Albert Einstein, from the school system. That's why you got so many millionaires that dropped out of school, became millionaires, right? People like, I don't really like this guy, but like people like Bill Gates, people like the guy from Apple. Shit, I forgot his name already. But a lot of millionaires, a lot of self-made millionaires that they dropped out of high school, or they didn't finish college, and they then went out to become, successful, whether if it was in real estate, technology, or whatever else. They became successful somehow because they had some talent and they focus on that talent, right? So yeah, school is created for conformity.
I mean, in a perfect world, children, they wouldn't spend 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for months on end, locked in a building that's designed just like a prison. Because if you juxtapose prisons and schools, the same buses, the same cafeteria, the same structure, and that is intentional. And so, but yeah, both are designed to produce compliance, not curiosity, not curiosity. I mean, kids are meant to be outside, climbing trees, scraping their knees, scrapping. The boys should be scrapping with each other, exploring, learning through, using their imaginations, not this whole game of memorizing and fear of being wrong. That there's so many reasons why this world is inverted, and it's so bass backwards. It's just so ugly and gray, because we're thrown into these environments at young ages when we're supposed to be out in nature and with our family, being raised by our moms and our dads, not raised by the state, because the majority of people are in public schools, government schools. And so, and even the private Montessori's, the private schools, the charter schools, they still run on similar curriculums that the public school is on. So it's just wild how that one thing, kids being thrown into that environment, can change just change their personality, the trajectory of their future.
Okay, so let's be realistic here. School does a good job at a few things. Number one, reading, teaching kids how to read, because um, everybody needs to learn how to read their own language. Whether if you're in America, you got to learn how to read and write English fluently, and because you're going to be reading. When you're driving, you're reading the signs. You're walking down the street, you're reading signs everywhere, messages, all these things, right? Basic math, adding, subtracting, multiplying, division, fractions, right? Learning all the necessary things about mathematics for the real world. Once we get to like calculus, I really don't think the average person needs to learn that, unless you're going to go to a career that requires it. Maybe it's good to know somewhat, but we don't really use calculus in the real world. If you own a business, like if you own a store, a restaurant, something like that, you don't use freaking calculus. Okay. Another thing is that I don't know if he's going to mention it later, but parents need to be involved in their children's education. A lot of parents do not know what their children are learning in school. So you saw what happened with the drag queen, what's it called? Drag Queen Story Hour. Sorry, I'm getting tongue tied. Drag Queen Story Hour. A lot of parents didn't know that was happening, right? They just put their kids in school and then they went home, and then that was it. A lot of parents don't know that their teachers are talking to children about, or teenagers about, their sex life and gender and all that crap, right? They have no idea that this is happening. Parents need to be involved in their children's education and also continue to teach them outside of school, right? And this is why back then things were working so well. You get the mom staying at home, making sure that the kids are educated, and then the father goes to work and making sure that the family is provided for, right? But hey, traditional family values, the nuclear family, throw that out the window. Nobody wants that anymore because everybody looks at that. Everybody looks down at that. But hey, nobody wants to have children anymore. Nobody wants to build relationship and families anymore, especially now since we're living in an economic downturn. We have lost millions of jobs, and people that have lost their jobs are having a really hard time finding another job. Some people have been unemployed for like 1 or 2 years, right? And they just can't find another job. We're being pushed to, to fend for ourselves, start our own side hustles and our own businesses. And what better business to own than a digital business? This is why Angry Guy created the Angry Guy Content Creator Academy, where you learn how to, create your own digital product, build an audience, create content for YouTube, and market yourself online. Basically, internet marketing. And if you sign up, you get a free guide. And the Content Creator Academy is going to show you how to run your own online business so that you can start building dependency, become independent from a 9 to 5 job, as 9 to 5 jobs are pretty much on their way out. So click the link in the description and check out Angry Guys Creator Academy, sign up, and let's go ahead and continue with our video.
Not for the better. It's just, people brag about being these A students and, I, for the most part, behaved well in school. I wasn't one that really got in trouble. And in high school, yeah, I had my moments. But for the most part, I was pretty well behaved, but I still saw through it. I still had an issue with the authority of these individuals. And I felt very uncomfortable in those environments, being in that, under those bright lights early in the morning and the bells going off, the Pavlovian march every day through the halls and the bells going off, first period, second period, and then lunch, recess, and then eventually recess was stripped from us in middle school. And it wore me out quite a bit as a young lad. I wanted to be homeschooled for the longest time, but my parents, they couldn't do that because, my mom was working and my dad was working. So, thank you, Federal Reserve and feminism, for that one. But I mean, those are the other parts of this system that are working together to dismantle, of course, the family unit. It's just this, and things are just getting so bad now. I mean, not every day is bad, I guess, but I mean, I was out today briefly, and it's somewhat cloudy out, and people, just like myself, I went out in sweatpants, and everybody else. If you look at footage from the 1950s and 60s, people wore their best clothes that when they went out, and people just they walked tall, they walked straight, they spoke more eloquently. But now it's just been this downward spiral for humanity. When you go outside, you just see all these disheveled individuals, myself included. I was super disheveled today. I've been chilling. So
Yeah, actually, you know what? You know what? He's actually right. I mean, back in the 1950s, for example, people actually had a higher IQ. People, whenever people walked outside of their house, they dress up to go to the movies. People would dress up to go to the movies. I wonder, what happened? What the heck happened? Why did people stop dressing up to go to the movies? It boggles my mind. What happened? People would dress up elegantly. People spoke more in a more educational manner, right? In a more educational manner. We didn't have all these street slangs. Everything was so. People were more beautiful back then, and I'm not talking about just the way they look. I'm talking about like their mannerism. The mannerism was better. And some of you are gonna say, "Oh, well, there was still racism." Yeah, I know there was racism back then. I know, but even in the black community, you look at pictures of the black community in the 1940s, 1950s. The way they dress was so much beautiful. Everybody went to church. People spoke clear English, right? People spoke clear English. Um, we didn't have all these stupid slangs. What happened? How did? And now we have all this technology, and people are actually getting dumber. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? But anyways, let's go back to the video.
because I wasn't planning on doing any content today because it's Halloween, it's a holiday, and so I've been deciding to just drop videos on Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday because those are the days that my videos tend to perform the best. So because being strategic here. And I also, this is a job at the end of the day. It's to some degree. And so I want to have some time to myself as well, have some downtime because that's the thing with content creation. I mean, you can get burned out and I don't want to get burned out. I enjoy doing this, but, it still does wear on you at the end of the day. It's not all puppy dogs and rainbows and bubblegum and whatnot, but yeah, Dapper Dev kind of inspired me to do this today, to just make this quick video. So, but it just got me thinking about, having your individuality taken from you and your spark taken from you. And I would say I held on to mine until the family court system that snuffed it out pretty much. But to all you individual men out there, I would say if you still got it, hold on to it, man. And don't end up in the family court system. That way you can keep it. Because yeah, not to say that you can't get it back. I think that is possible. And here's the thing. If you're a parent, then that's the thing. That's what I love about being a parent is that, I don't really care about the holidays, but my son loves the holidays. He loves certain holidays, of course, more than others. Unfortunately, I'm not hanging out with him this Halloween, of course, but, I don't care about gifts. I don't care about, even my son, he was like, don't worry about putting up a tree or anything. He didn't really care. He's pretty chill. But, when he was younger, of course, put the tree up, we decorated it, wrap presents, did that whole thing. And it's just, you get that spark as a parent. You get it's not the same spark you had as a kid, but watching your child enjoy the holiday and opening presents, that is awesome, honestly. And so I know there are a lot of people that believe in not having kids. And I can understand the logic behind it, but when I think about when I didn't have a son, when I didn't have a kid, it was just me. Yeah, I had a good time. It was great and all. I had that spark, I guess, the feeling of adventure and a lust for life, this zeal. Things seemed a bit more colorful, brighter back then. And but you know, I think about being a parent and all of the memories that I've made with my son and the things that we've done together, and I wouldn't trade those for the times before him. And I do remember being on the bus when I lived in Portland, Oregon, being on the TriMet, either being in the train or the bus, and seeing somebody with their kid. I felt sorry for them and pitied them, and was so glad that I was not in their shoes.
Yeah, you know what? A lot of people actually do want to have children. You know, a lot of people do want to have children, even if they say they don't, right? Even if they say they don't, and this is true with a lot of females. You know, right now in their early 20s, they say, "Yeah, I don't want to have kids," but until once they get to their 30s, you know, they change their minds all of a sudden, right? The problem is that, especially nowadays, it's getting harder to live, right? It's getting, and people know, because they can hardly provide for themselves. They are afraid that if they have a child, they will be unable to provide for that child, right? So people do want to be fathers and mothers. It's just that they're afraid they won't be able to provide for their children. That if they have a children, you know, they will be bad parents, and they won't have enough money to provide for the kid. You know, that's the fear. That's the fear. And you know, but a lot of people do want to be parents. You know, they might not be loud about it, they might not show it, but it's there. The desire is there, man.
That was my mindset then, but now I don't have that mindset. Obviously, I mean, I have a kid, but I don't know. Maybe I would have had a different. Maybe would have felt differently if I would have been younger when I had a kid. I think, of course, a lot of people do feel like they're robbed of, their 20s if they end up having a child in their early 20s or even in their teens. They feel like they're robbed of some form of freedom because, of course, now they have to be an adult. They have to be responsible and take care of another. They have to take care of a child. So, but yeah, that's just, I just wanted to hop on just to kind of share that. I know I'm just kind of rambling here, but.
Okay, so he was kind of like rambling on for a little bit, and the rest of the video is just him rambling. But one last thing that I wanted to say is that there's something that parents don't like to do, and that is to educate their kids after school. So whatever they're not learning in school, the parents have to be in charge of teaching them. So finances, taxes, all these things, the parents have to teach the kids how to do these things in the real world. Right? Because the school's not going to teach them about finances, so the parents have to teach them about finances. But the problem is that parents, they just leave the school system to just educate their kids. You also have to be involved with your children's education and teach them things that you want your children to learn for the future. But honestly, to be honest, I mean, let's be honest. Like, a lot of parents probably learn from the same system and they trusted that system. So they said, well, I'll just let them, educate my own children. But hey, what are your thoughts? Make sure to comment below, like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for future notifications. It's your boy, Andy Matrix. Godspeed.